though at that time, Jewish religious groups were against the Zionist movement because it was a secular movement, said that, so Zionism is not after Gaza. Zionism is a project. Colonization goes beyond the Gaza and the West Bank and Jerusalem. If we have that in mind, we can understand what Gaza is a trap for the Arabic country to go into a war, especially Egypt. Ben Gurion, when he became the first prime minister of Israel, he said this statement. They asked him, would Israel have a nuclear bomb to protect itself? He says, all what we have to do is to destroy 3 countries, Iraq, Syria, and Egypt. They don't need a nuclear bomb. And as you know, Iraq and Syria are being destroyed. They don't have any even, yes, they are a country, but they're no existence. So they are after Egypt. October 7th, it was a result, but they used it to trap Egypt. So it goes beyond Gaza.
Very quick and straightforward to the question that was asked about what do you think about the outcome of Gaza. I tell you, talking to some of my family in Gaza, they say never again. They will not leave Gaza unless in one condition, and that is going back to Jaffa, to Wad Hnain, to Ashkelon, to Jerusalem, to these places that they were displaced from the first time. But to leave Gaza to go to Australia, that is absolutely, they said never again that they will leave Gaza. They will die there then rather than to leave Gaza.
We have 2 more cards, and I think I'm going to read the questions from both of them because they are related. First one says, a commentator in the 80s said, Israel is much too ruthless for Palestine to win. Does U.S. aid prop up Israel for eternity? And the second one says, what do you think the U.S. government should do to promote peace and human rights in Palestine and Israel? So there is a connection between those two. Let's see what our panelists have to say.
First question again.
Does U.S. aid prop up Israel for eternity?
Of course it does. You know, when October 7th happened, and 24 hours later, the almighty President Biden, our president, went there and hugged Netanyahu and he said, I am more of a Zionist than you are. Go ahead, wipe these people off the face of the earth. You know, so of course it does matter, you know. The problem is for us American people in this country to be awakened to what these Zionist movements, especially in this country, what are they doing? How they have hijacking the American people, you know? Just like Brother Fadi said, or Bendeli, about Miriam Adelson, you know? When you get a Zionist that goes and pays, the first time they paid Trump's election campaign, they paid like a couple $100 million so they can gift, Trump gift the Golan Heights to Israel, and also move the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And now also it's the same thing all over again. You know, Trump gets another $100 million from the biggest Zionist in the world to do other damage to the area. But you know what? I don't care what anybody said. I don't care if the whole world will go against the Palestinians. As long as we are resisting, as long as we are alive, as long as we are breathing, they will never succeed. There will always be a Palestinian people in that area. There will always be a Palestine. And if they don't like it, they can jump from here to eternity. So I'm hopeful, and I'm praying, and I'm wishing that just the American people can go and lobby these corrupt politicians at the local level, state level, and at the national level. They need to stop listening to that side. Enough is enough. Over 100 years of corrupting us, corrupting the American people. That is the Zionist movement. I think there's also, after October 7th, and unfortunately it came with a price for us Palestinians. The American people are awakened. We are destroying AIPAC slowly. We are destroying the Zionist movement slowly, but we need to do more and more. Also, there's another enemy in this country, and we all should go after that enemy. I happen to be a Muslim from Palestine. These brothers are Christians. He's a Muslim. There's a huge problem with the Christian Zionist people in this country. They are worse than the real Zionists. We also have Zionist Arabs, we have them back home too, the Emirates and Saudi Arabia and all that region. So we need to go after these Christian Zionists in this country to tell them enough is enough, Stop, what are you doing? Stop corrupting, stop, Israel does not have a biblical right in Palestine.
An interesting question again. I want to express how powerful the Israeli lobby. The question says, will America keep funding Israel? With a powerful Israeli lobby, they will. Now let me explain what I recently read. Mrs. Weir, what's her first name? I read part of her book, I'm still reading it. She says in there, during World War I, when Britain wanted the U.S. to enter the war on their side, and the Israelis, or the Zionists, is this thing on? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
The Israelis wanted Palestine, so they struck a deal with the British government. This is American Zionists, American lobby. They struck a deal, said, we will influence the Wilson administration, although President Wilson during his campaign promised not to get us into Europe's war. They struck a deal saying that we will influence the Wilson administration in exchange for a promise by Britain to allow Jews to have a homeland in Palestine. And that was the prelude to the Balfour Declaration, if everybody knows what that is. It's a statement that the British government wrote a letter. Balfour was the Prime Minister, wrote a letter to a Jewish member of Parliament telling him that we will establish a permanent home in Palestine for the Jewish people. Okay, that was the beginning. That's how powerful. And in 1948, when the Israeli government was formed, minutes after midnight, after it was declared, President Truman, at the behest of 75 U.S. senators, recognized the state of Israel. That's how powerful. That's going back 100 years and 75 years. And we are not that strong, but we need to be, as Brother Maher said, we need to organize. We need to have people speak to their congressmen, talk to them, influence them. It needs to be have a grassroots campaign to talk to our congressmen and change this policy once and for all.
I have 2 points to mention that. First of all, Pope John Paul II in 2000 make a confession and apologize for the Crusades and the Inquisition. And that's a big deal for an organized leader. Until the United States of America, as a government, apologized for the injustice they did for the inhabitants of the United States and the injustice they did to the black community, the alliance between the right-wingers, I don't care, Democrat or Republican, the mentality of racism and prejudice still exists, that alliance will exist. The second thing about the power of the Zionist movement, if we read in history, in 1453, the Ottoman took over Constantinople, and they marched into East Europe. And then they decide to move down to the Arabic countries. They entered Jerusalem in 1517 until the British, by mandate, they entered Jerusalem again in 1917. There's 400 years. That region, they had Jewish community in Egypt, in Libya, in Tunisia, which was under the Ottoman, in Iraq, in Syria, in Palestine. We never heard of any violence against the Jewish community in that region. For 400 years, nothing is recorded. Of course, there was an ethnic problem between the Maronites in Lebanon and the Druze in 1860. And there was also a violent movement by Napoleon when he tried to occupy Egypt. What's that telling you? The problem is not the people. The problem is not the people. The problem is the politician and the economist. And as mentioned, Biden confessed, if there is no Israel, we'll create Israel. Because they want that region to be unstable. So it is beyond, Zionism is beyond. The Arabic community, whether Christian or Muslim, they were not anti-Jew. We are anti-Zionist. And for land of Palestine, you know, there is a great leader, his name is Kamal Nasser. He's from Birzim, which is close to Ramallah. He said a statement, from our understanding of the progression of history and believing of our people ability, we will be victorious. And may I add, with the support of the conscious, of the free people to think right, we will be victorious. Not from a perspective of we are better than others. No, in establishing a democratic, secular state in the historical land of Palestine.
Okay, my 30-second answer so we can have more questions. United States is going to keep supporting Israel indefinitely if people did not start asking questions. And the news yesterday, they're saying that they're going to lay off 150 teachers in Phoenix, 150 teachers. And the newscaster, they just announce it like it is, it's just simple. Why the media does not ask, why we do not have a budget to educate our kids. Why there is billions of dollars go to Israel, to Ukraine, bombs, machines, airplanes. Why don't we invest that? Mr. Biden, Mr. Trump, instead of building a Riviera in Gaza, build a Riviera here in Phoenix so you can shelter all of these homeless people. We deserve our money, our taxpayer money, to be invested in the United States. Until the media start asking these questions, why are we laying off people? Why we don't have money for projects? Why we do not have money to shelter the homeless and give free medical to everybody here in the United States, but we're sending money so Israelis have money or have a free health care.
We need to wrap this up, but I need to say one thing. My organization, Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, has existed since 1915, and we've been working to try to stop war all around the world. We do have a Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee, and we are working with our sections in Palestine and in Lebanon. One of the things that we in the U.S. have discovered is that we have three main entities in our government that we need to work on, because they all are getting something out of continuing war in the Middle East. One of them is the military-industrial complex. The second one is AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, and the third one is Christian Zionists. Our legislators believe that they get more support from those people than they do from the rest of us. If we really want peace, we need to work on changing that equation. I want to introduce one person. We have a guest from Jewish Voice for Peace. Stand up and say something.
I'm very honored to hear what you have to say, and I'm horrified by what's going on. I've been working against what's been going on for over 40 years as an activist with New Jewish Agenda and now Jewish Voice for Peace, and that there are Jews who know that we are not enemies, and that the situation, as you said, is constructed for the political advantage of people in power, and that I think it's important. I think the most important thing is that we discriminate between opposition to what's going on in Israel and anti-Semitism, because a lot of people are paralyzed, particularly non-Jews, who are afraid to say, this is bullshit, we can't do this, because they're afraid they'll be read as anti-Semitic. So I think you need to discriminate between those statements. You need to call people out on Zionist propaganda, and then you also need to call people out on anti-Semitism. And it's important for Jews to do that, and it's harder for non-Jews to do that, but I encourage you to have conversations with people in which you say, this is not okay, the occupation of the West Bank is not okay, building settlements is not okay. The latest, craziness of turning Gaza into a recreational activity, resort is not okay, but this is not about Jews, this is about Israel. And that those are different things. There were Jews long before there was Israel, and there will be Jews long after there is Israel.
Palestinians. And Palestinians.
Yes.
I want to thank you all again for coming to hear our speakers, and I know you want to thank our speakers. Give them a round of applause. Will these gentlemen still be staying here to answer questions outside once the group that's coming in gets here?
I just want to say one quick thing about Muslim and Christian cooperation or living together. As a child, I did not like my mother's milk. And the lady next door, Talal, a Muslim lady, breastfed me. That's the level of cooperation that Muslims and Christians have, and they live together for a long time. So anybody who tries to divide us is wrong, and we cannot be divided.
We have someone who wants to make an announcement, encourage people to do something else.
No, I'm Jen, I'm one of the organizers of this. I just wanted to let you know that there are 3 panels that just started at 10:30, one of which is on higher education in Palestine, the labor connection, and that's in Wilson 103. So that one is staying here. So I guess my point is, if you're interested in this conversation, you can stay here and please enjoy that. But there are 2 other panels too that just started, just to let you know, in case you were wanting to attend one of those panels on as well. One is on decolonization. Let me read you the titles. So there's a 3-person panel, The Struggles for Land Justice, Experiences from Liberia, South Africa, and the US, and that's in Wilson 112. And then we also have Land, Space, Architecture, and Disability in Wilson 114. So 3 very powerful panels. All of them will be great, but please feel free to stay here too. Thank you all so much, really appreciate it.
And thanks to our audience very much.
That's so terrible. We needed more time, but it's okay, you know. Yeah. We need more against all of Palestinian. They call them Indian terrorists because they are owners. They get the entire population is Palestinian. Israel is against the whole entire population. That's always no problem. You know, everybody will lay down the laws on both sides. You know, yeah, we see them happen. My uncle see what I lived and what my family has when I crossed the Jordan River, get to my American passport, start laughing. He said, "Oh, you're an American?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, but you were born here." Because you look at American. I said, "Yeah, I'm proud American. I came here to visit." So that's it.